Hello, my fellow fish fans. I hope that you all are having a lovely day. I have a little bit of a video for you guys regarding a tank that is not typically in my house. So let's take a look at, not that nano tank, that's my husband's nano tank, this one, right there. So this tank is something that I am taking care of at the moment. Let's take a good look at it. This tank is super cute. It's just a little 5.5 gallon nano tank setup that I am fish sitting for right now. A good friend of mine is on vacation with her daughter, and this is her daughter's 5.5 gallon tank. And it's just a basic top fin 5.5 gallon tank. I think it actually might be the same exact tank as my husband's 5.5 gallon tank. I can't remember where we bought his, but it came with this lid, and I think it came with that filter. I don't know if they upgraded the filter. I'm not really sure. But I am being a fish sitter, and I figure, you know, a lot of you guys might be going on vacation coming up, and you might be wondering who is going to take care of my tank while I'm gone. What do I need to do? So I thought I'd chat a little bit about this because I get to be kind of on the other end of it as the fish sitter. So if you can't tell from looking at the tank, it has 4 zebra danios in it, and most of the plants are fake. Some of these actually used to be my plants. I think that one, maybe. I know this one used to be in one of my betta tanks, and that bridge, I think that's my bridge, or we have the same one, because I gave her some of the stuff when she first started this tank. When she was very first setting up this tank, I gave her a whole bunch of starter media in order to help cycle it for her, because she wanted to get fish in there nice and quickly. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about with cycling, there should be a video, I think right there, it might be right there, but wherever the iCard is, called Stop Killing Your Fish. And it really should be Fish Keeping 101. In fact, maybe you clicked on this video because you are supposed to be sitting someone else's fish. I don't know. I would recommend watching that video because it's something that every single person needs to know about. So, the reason I bring up the cycle is kind of important. So when she first set up this tank, I gave her some cycled media from my tank at my house, wrapped it up in a little bag, and sent it her way and said, here you go, start your tank, it should instant cycle, which it did, which is awesome. And that's what she did, and she was able to put the zebra danios in basically right away. Now, zebra danios are really, really hardy fish. Very, very hardy, especially these kind. Some of the glowfish zebra danios are a little bit weaker from what I have seen. You can see my whole video about glowfish, but these kind are really, really hardy. And back in the day, people used to cycle tanks with zebra danios all of the time. All the time. Now, for the most part, we recommend not doing that. We recommend cycling your tank fishless, but since I gave her my filter media, she did not have to do that, which is just one of those kind of cool things. So she has the 4 zebra danios in there, and there is somewhere hidden in there an assassin snail. Now these danios are much loved. I can't tell the difference, but she can tell the difference. 2 of them have names. One of them is Mustache, but I don't know which one it is. And she trusted me to fish sit this tank. And so I'm like, okay, I will be a good fish sitter, because you're always hearing horror stories of people who overfeed your fish or forget to feed your fish. Usually it's overfeeding because people try to overcompensate and they don't do a good job of necessarily doing the exact amount. And so it's really easy to come home from vacation and have all your fish die. I've had that happen before. I've had fish die while I was on vacation. And my goal is for that not to happen in this tank. Now, fortunately, since it's a small tank, we have a little bit of an easier time doing this because she was able to bring the whole tank over to my house. So if you're ever moving a tank, one of the biggest things to keep in mind is to keep the filter media wet. Keep it wet so that your cycle will maintain itself. The other thing is try to reuse the water. Obviously, if you're due for a water change, you can drain out like half of it and then put like a 50% water change equivalent. But that's what she did. She drained out about half this water. She moved this entire tank by itself. She actually bagged the fish. She probably could have just left them in the tank, but she bagged the fish because she didn't take any of this stuff out. And then she took her sponge filter, which is what she has in her hang-on back. It's sponge filter media, I should say, excuse me. She doesn't run carbon in this tank, and kept that wet. And so when it showed up at my house, we put everyone in the tank. We got the tank all set up and ready to go, and the water looked really like murky and stuff because obviously the filter media had been kind of moving around. I do want to just real quick take a look at that. This is so impressive to me. So this is the only live plant that she has in this tank. This is Anubius. I had given her some clippings from my Anubius plant in order to kind of help her as well. And I cannot believe how much Anubius is there, probably because it's not competing with any other live plant. It's just super impressive. It's become this like whole bushel, which is really cool. Anubius is a really, really great plant if you're looking for like a hardy, easy beginner plant. It's like impossible to kill. I don't think that she runs any kind of fertilizer in this tank. At least they didn't give me any to have a fertilizer schedule. So one of the things that happened though since we transitioned the tank is that it did go into a mini cycle. So fortunately she was able to find someone such as myself who is into fish. Most of us can't do that. A lot of times we're just asking, you know, the dog sitter to throw some food in the tank. But because it was at my house anyways, I decided to go ahead and test the water, and we found some ammonia in the water, and I was like, oh dang it. So we did enter a little bit of a mini cycle. Now I didn't panic too much because like I said, Danios are really hardy, and also because I know exactly what to do. So the first thing I did is a 50% water change. Now if you guys aren't familiar with my house and our water situation, we can't use our tap water. My tap water is very, very, very bad. But I didn't want to use RODI water in this tank either because where she lives, the tap water that she's using is really, really hard water. And so they actually brought over a couple gallons of their tap water. I tested their tap water and I compared it to my parents' tap water because my parents' tap water is what I use for a lot of my other tanks. I use my parents' tap water for the betta tank because as live bearers, and my parents' tap water is really, really hard. Live bearers don't do particularly good in RODI water, which is what I usually do. So anyways, I did a 50% water change with their water, and I also compared the water in this tank to the tap water from my parents, and pH matches perfectly, GH, KH, all of that stuff, even stuff that you wouldn't necessarily know to test because a lot of people only have the, what is it called? The API Master Test Kit, which I do like. I'll link that down below, and I will also link down below my Tetra test strips. I know there's a lot of hate towards test strips, but I do like the Tetra ones. I find that they match what the API one says really, really well. I wouldn't recommend the API test strips. So anyways, I tested the water. I did a 50% water change because I realized that there was ammonia in the tank. And then I dosed Prime, which Prime will temporarily, like 24 to 48 hours, make ammonia into ammonium. So it will still read as ammonia when you do your test kit, but it doesn't harm the fish. Now it only does that for 24 to 48 hours. So if you accidentally end up in this sort of situation, you're going to need to dose Prime as long as you're having the problem. But I did 50% water change, dosed some Prime, and since I'm lucky enough to have a fish tank here, I pulled some cycled media out of my tank and put it right there in her filter. Now I wouldn't always recommend doing that. Obviously, if your tank is in cycle, you do what you gotta do. In this particular case, this tank was started with my cycled media. So everything had already kind of been cross-contaminated, but it is something to keep in mind that if I'm bringing cycled media over, I might be bringing over some kind of disease or something that might be in my tank. That being said, I brought it from the discus tank, and that discus tank is disease-free to the best of my knowledge. Everything that goes into that tank is super duper quarantined, pre-treated with meds, all of that stuff. So anyways, I did that, and the next day, lo and behold, we had no ammonia, no nitrite. We went straight to nitrate. So that was really, really good. Now, I say all this just to say it's helpful whenever possible to have someone who is familiar with fish keeping taking care of your fish, because these Danios probably would have made it through that mini cycle. Usually when a mini cycle happens, it happens a lot quicker. But if you're using someone who isn't necessarily familiar with fish or isn't necessarily familiar with fish tanks, you probably don't want to be asking them to do water changes. It can be really intimidating. They could forget dechlorinator, all of those kinds of things. And you want to have someone on hand that like knows what to do if the tank has a problem. So far I think everything is going really, really well. I did another water change yesterday though, because even though the ammonia had dropped to 0 and we had no nitrites, we did have nitrates higher than I typically like, and I should have asked her. I didn't ask her what she usually keeps her nitrates at. I think that they actually don't have a test kit at their house. I think that she just does weekly water changes. But the nitrates were higher than I would like them to be, so I went ahead and did a water change. Other than that, another little bit of advice, and I think that this is really, really helpful, is if you're not going to be gone long, just don't get anyone to look after your tank. Your tank would probably be better off not being fed than accidentally being overfed. So if you're going to be gone for like a weekend or, you know, 4 days or something like that, maybe just don't feed the fish while you're gone, because a lot more problems can happen in 4 days from overfeeding than from underfeeding, and that's definitely what I do. I also would not recommend those weekend feeders that you can get. Those are little ammonia bombs that you're basically putting in your tank. So don't get the like weekend feeders. If you're going to be gone a really long time and you don't have anyone that can feed your tank for you, you can also get an auto feeder. And then what a lot of people will do, and I'll link this down below if I can find them, but you can get these anywhere at like Walgreens or Walmart or any pharmacy or whatever. They'll take little, you can do Ziploc baggies, which is what I've done before, but you can take little pill boxes labeled like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and just put the amount of food that you need in those pill boxes. And whoever's watching your tank, just tell them, no matter what, do not feed more than what is in this little container, because we all know how easy it is, and a lot of times people who aren't used to taking care of fish don't know how much damage they can do by overfeeding. So anyways, just thought that we'd introduce this cute little tank to you guys that is temporarily at my house. The reason why she did find someone to look after it is because they're going to be gone for quite a while. Definitely can't fast the fish that long. So I'm excited to have a little bit of pet sitting, and I'm particularly excited about that Anubius plant over there. That is just super duper impressive. Anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Let us know in the comments who watches your fish when you're gone, or if you have any tips for people who might be going on vacation. What are some things that you want to think about before you go? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. We'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.